Hi everybody, my name is Manon and I am a therapist here at Affinity Counseling, and I want to take a few minutes and talk about emotions. So if you work with me, if you're currently a client or a colleague, you know how much I love talking about feelings and how much I want people to feel their feelings and sit in their feelings. So I will frequently encourage my clients to sit in their feelings or feel their feelings. In initial sessions, so usually after the first 1 to 3 sessions, I start to bring this up, well, what does that feel like? Sit in it for a minute. And I get a little bit of pushback from clients in which they'll say something like, that doesn't feel good. I don't want to feel bad. I don't feel my feelings. I even had one client tell me he doesn't have feelings. That was great, and we were able to process through it. So I get it. There are a lot of emotions that don't feel good. I can tell you personally, I don't like to feel certain feelings. I don't think anybody likes to feel every single feeling that we experience. Unfortunately, we are emotional beings and have to deal with positive and negative emotions. We also can't ignore negative emotions long term. So let's talk about emotional basics. We experience primary and secondary emotions. So secondary emotions are always anger, always, always, always. Or it could be something in the anger family, like rage or frustration or anything like that. These develop as a protective feature for us because it helps us feel safe. It helps us feel like we're guarded a little bit. And it also feels safer to show the outside world anger than to show some other primary emotion. So primary emotions are those deeper, raw, vulnerable emotions that feel uncomfortable and risky to show. These can include fear, sadness, worry, anxiety, hurt, guilt, shame, embarrassment, grief, distrust, regret, disappointment, stress, and anything else that falls into those families or those categories. I like to think about emotions like an iceberg, so for primary and secondary emotions. So if you think of an iceberg, the tip of the iceberg is the only part that we see. So if we're on a boat, and we see an iceberg, the tip of the iceberg is all that we see, and there's a whole lot of iceberg underneath the surface of the water that we don't see. So if you think about that, the tip of the iceberg would represent the secondary emotion, the anger. The primary emotions would be underneath the surface of the water that are pushing the tip of the iceberg up. And so when you think about having an anger outburst or an anger reaction, there are going to be a lot of emotions underneath that are fueling the anger to show. So that could be hurt, it could be embarrassment, it could be shame, it could be any number of things. That's also helpful to know just about yourself, what tends to make me show anger. And then when you see somebody else angry, you know that there's other stuff going on with them, other emotions. It's not just anger. So why should we experience our feelings, right? So Brene Brown, who I love, she does such amazing work, she says, one of my favorite quotes is, we cannot selectively numb emotions. When we numb the painful emotions, we also numb the positive emotions. So basically, if you ignore the pain, the hurt, sadness, worry, any of that, you're also going to be ignoring positive emotions too. And numbing emotions doesn't just occur for select emotions. It's not like this board of emotional buttons that you can push and you're going to turn off one and leave the other ones on. You turn them off all across the board. And it's hard to do that. James Gross, there's a link at the bottom of the blog. Sue Johnson did an article on why it's important to share emotions with your partner. And she references a study by James Gross, who is a scientist who researched emotions and emotional suppression. And he found that it's really hard to suppress emotions. The amount of energy that we use to suppress emotions or try to suppress emotions actually leads people to feeling more agitated and more tense. So if you think about yourself doing that, you can probably relate to after you've stuffed down things for a while, you're feeling more agitated, you're feeling more frustrated. Also, emotions don't stay suppressed. They find a way to come out. So you might not have an emotional response to the thing that you're trying to suppress, but you're going to have an emotional response to some other trigger, and it's going to feel like it doesn't match. It's not proportional. Also, the people that are around us are going to pick up on that we're trying to pack stuff away. So they're going to notice that we're, more agitated about this thing over here that doesn't seem like they don't understand why we're that agitated. They're going to feel a shift in us, whether it's emotions or energy or vibe or whatever they're picking up on. They're going to notice that something's different. And like I said, Sue Johnson talks about that in her article with that link at the bottom of the blog. Another reason that we need to experience our feelings, and probably the most important reason, is to heal. I know sometimes it feels counterintuitive to follow the negative emotion. I like to call it following the thread, but to follow that thread back to why am I feeling this way? But being able to sit in those emotions, to follow that thread back, allows you to understand the emotions differently and to process them differently. This allows you to feel less intense primary emotions as you're doing the healing. So I'm going to use another analogy. This is about a messy closet, and I have one closet in my house. It's a complete disaster, and I'm hoping that everybody else does too. But I have one that has, I can't even tell you everything it has in there, but it has pool towels. It has swimsuits. It has swimsuits from when my kids were like 2. It has probably bath toys from when they were 2. It has dog toys. It has dog sweaters. Yes, I'm one of those people that put sweaters on dogs because they're 9 pounds and they freeze in the winter, even though we're in Arizona. And I don't even know what else. I think at one point bleach was in there or some type of cleanser was in there. I don't know, but I can't tell you specifically everything that's in there. So let's pretend that that's all emotions, right? If I just keep throwing stuff in there and I don't know what it is, eventually that closet is going to bust open. What I can do, and what I've done with the actual closet, is I've ignored it up until now, which is not productive because nothing changes. That closet is still a disaster, no matter how much I ignore it and pretend that it's fine, right? So my other option is to go in and take everything out and decide, do I keep it, do I throw it away, or do I move it? With emotions, it's the same thing. So you can start with one emotion or one event and think, okay, so what part of this am I keeping? What am I moving, right? So what am I going to look at differently or reframe? And what am I just going to get rid of? If you just continue to ignore it, like I do with this closet, which I should go home today and start to work on, but I probably won't. I'll probably do that another day. But if you choose to ignore the emotions and you keep packing stuff away and you keep ignoring it, what's going to happen is eventually those emotions are going to bust out. And that could look like an anger outburst. That could look like feeling really depressed, really sad. It could look like an anxiety attack, a panic attack. It could look like a physical manifestation, so such as like stomach pain, hyperventilating, feeling an adrenaline rush all the time, and it could just be feeling burnt out. So what I would encourage you to do is to go into the closet, the emotional closet, and start to clean stuff out. That way you can start to look at things differently and feel those emotions less intensely. So I know this doesn't sound super fun, but I can promise you that as you start to do this, you are going to feel so much better. I can promise you that. So hopefully I've encouraged you and convinced you to start feeling your feelings. You may be wondering how to do this. So here are the steps that I go through with my clients when they start working on sitting with their feelings. So the first step is to sit with the emotional reaction for 5 minutes. So whatever the emotional reaction is, just sit with it. And you could do a little bit shorter, you could do a little bit longer. Find a time frame that works for you given the situation and the intensity of the emotion. So sit with that for, we'll go with 5 minutes for the example. While you're sitting with it, label that feeling that you're feeling. Put a name to that emotion. Then tell yourself that it's okay to feel what you feel. And notice if there are any negative thoughts or beliefs coming up that tell you to pack that emotion away or that it's not okay. The second step would be to identify any underlying feelings or any other feelings that are connected to the emotional response that you're having. So let's say you have an anger reaction. Well, what's connected to the anger? What are those primary emotions connected to the anger? At that point, I'm going to ask you to identify if there is a negative thought or feeling about yourself or the world around you when you think about that underlying emotion. So typically what I hear in my office is a number of things. I hear, I'm not good enough. I hear, I'm not important. I'm not loved. I'm bad. I'm a failure. I'm weak. The world isn't safe. The world is really dangerous. I can't trust anybody. I can't trust myself. Those are probably the most common ones that I hear in most of my sessions. Then I'm going to have you do a body scan and think about any bodily sensations that are connected to that underlying feeling. So what I tend to hear is there's usually like tightness in a chest or a pit in the stomach or a knot in the stomach, feeling nauseous, feeling like your heart's racing, feeling lightheaded, feeling shaky, feeling an adrenaline rush. Just pay attention to that. Usually it will be easier for people to identify the bodily sensation or the underlying feeling. Either one is okay. Just find the one that's easiest for you and go with that. And then the same thing. So if you've identified a bodily sensation, I want you to think about if there's a negative thought about yourself or the world around you that's connected to that feeling. Then what I want you to do, so step 4, would be to think about a time that you have felt this way before, right? So think about, when have I felt this way with either the underlying feelings or the bodily sensation or even those negative thoughts about yourself or the world around you? When have I felt that way before in my life? That's going to start lining things up for you so you can start to process and you can decide, okay, what's important to keep and maybe continue to process on? What do I take to therapy with me or talk to another person, right? Who do I process this with? Or what do I decide I don't need it anymore and I can just get rid of it? I can start to rationalize it and I can get rid of it. Once you've done this a few times, you're going to start noticing that more memories are popping up, new understanding about the emotions is happening, and that it becomes a lot easier to sit in the emotional response. And I will tell you that when I have clients that do this and practice it, it's really beautiful in session because they can identify what they're feeling and they can process through it really quickly, and we can start to do some deeper processing work in session than fight to get into the emotion. And not really fight, but like push against that barrier to feeling the way that they feel. So I hope this is helpful. If you are doing this and you're feeling like there still are some things that you feel stuck on and you need some extra help processing, feel free to reach out to us. We would be more than happy to help you. Or if you are currently working with a therapist, I might be bringing that up with them. So we hope you're having a good day. Like I said, there are some helpful links at the bottom of the blog if you want more information. And like I said, if you need help, feel free to reach out. Thanks so much. Hope you guys have a good day.